Hello everyone, my name is Tanya Costa and you're watching Canine Wellness Online. Have you or someone you know had a dog that got intoxicated from cannabis? Sadly, many dogs are ending up in emergency by accidentally ingesting it. Typically, eating marijuana is not life-threatening, but it can have some serious side effects in your dog. And recently this happened to me at the beach in Toronto, so I thought what better time than now to do a video on THC intoxication. How it happens, signs to look for, how long it lasts, and other things that you need to know about your dog getting intoxicated. If you watch to the end, I'll share some tips on helping your dog while he recovers and when you should go to an emergency vet. Since legalization of cannabis in 2018, at least here in Canada and many U.S. states, there is an abundance of recreational cannabis products available, from smoking products to edibles, and our pets have even more opportunity than ever to come across marijuana in all different forms. This is my dog Ben, who picked up something off the beach this summer. I had only turned my head for maybe 20 seconds to pick up his toy, and it wasn't until 1 hour later when we got home that this happened. I knew instantly what it was, being a certified cannabis counselor. You can see him being wobbly and a little uncoordinated, and this is called static ataxia. Basically, he's stoned. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share with all your friends. People often ask me, how much is too much THC? Unfortunately, there is no clear answer to this question. It depends on each individual dog, health status, age, and how much is consumed, and in what form. As a side note, most pet products do not contain THC, so intoxication is unlikely, but it still can have side effects. I will discuss shortly why you should be concerned about purchasing pet products in Canada. With pet products, they are considered illegal in Canada, as well as many states in the USA and abroad. The reason for this is that they are not regulated and do not typically provide testing of the product on a regular basis. There was actually a study in Canada, from Ontario and Saskatchewan, that looked at several products that were sold in retail and had them tested in an independent lab. And what they found is that many of the pet products that were tested claimed amounts of CBD and or THC actually did not even have what was claimed on the label, or more importantly, found levels of toxins in the product. Things like arsenic and other toxins that you definitely don't want your dog consuming. I will cover this more in depth in my online CBD course coming in January 2024. So, how do dogs get stoned? We all know there are certain breeds that are more predisposed to eating things from the ground on a routine walk. We won't mention who those might be. Clearly, Ben is one of those. But remember, dogs don't discriminate on what they eat, unless you happen to be lucky enough to have a dog that is a picky eater. But what happens if they eat something with THC and you don't know about it? Well, I'll show you in a minute how it all happens. It may take about 30 minutes to 1 hour for THC intoxication to have a full effect. This is because dogs have a greater distribution of CB1 receptors in a part of the brain that controls balance, and this is called the cerebellum. The THC has an affinity to these receptors and sits nicely in the receptor and binds to them. And studies have shown that dogs appear to have a greater distribution of these CB1 receptors, which causes the more severe effects. We also have to remember that the same effect from THC may not be the same for each and every dog. Similarly, it's the same for humans. Cannabis, or more specifically THC, which is one of the compounds found in a cannabis plant, is considered to have a high margin of safety. A small amount may affect one pet more than another, so there's no official safe level of exposure. Differences in age, health status, and body size are some of the factors that can lead to intoxication differences. Studies have been done to test amounts of THC that could kill a dog, and in this study, the doses were as high as 3 to 9 grams per kilogram which were given, and no lethal effects were found. To put this in perspective, your dog would have to eat this much of a THC dominant flower, or 6 to 18 of these gummies per kilogram, to get to the top end of this study. Now remember, every dog is different, as well as the dose consumed compared to body weight. It's also important to remember that each dog may have a different symptom from mild to severe. Regardless, there is still a general pattern of symptoms and behavior that are relatively typical for THC ingestion. Common mild signs include being really sleepy, dilated pupils, and here's a slide of Ben that shows one of the other common symptoms, which is being wobbly and uncoordinated gait or movements, accidents or dribbling of urine, abnormal sensitivity to light, touch, or sound. Some dogs, not all, may have vomiting or a low body temperature. So this is Ben, who had most of these symptoms above, which lasted about 24 to 32 hours, with it being less severe each hour. He did not, however, have any issues with eating his meals. So moderate intoxication can also include tremors, shaking, twitching, or whining. If you're at all concerned and you're not sure what your dog has ingested, if it's just THC or has something else in it, it's best to call your veterinarian to be sure. Well, typically you should worry if you know your dog has eaten a human edible product containing chocolate, xylitol, grapes, and there are other things that can be toxic to your dog. The hard part is, unless you know exactly what your dog has eaten, you can't be sure whether a vet visit is in order. With Ben, I ended up taking him to emergency because I wanted to ensure he had not eaten anything with xylitol in it. I waited about 4 hours and then saw no changes, then took him to the vet to get tested for xylitol poisoning. He was negative, so off home we went to sleep it off. When a vet visit immediately is required. So, if your dog is unable to stand, has a low body temperature, so less than 99 or 37 degrees Celsius, has difficulty swallowing, has a change in blood pressure, changes in heart rate and breathing, especially having any seizures or coma or pale gums. If any of these signs are present, you should probably take a trip to emergency so that you can be ensured that there's nothing else going on with your dog. Tests for THC intoxication. Unfortunately, there are no reliable veterinary in-clinic tests for THC intoxication through serum or urine. While some clinics may use human drug tests, the research shows a very low accuracy rate with these test results. Treatment should focus on clinical signs in the patient presented with a known history of something else or signs consistent with marijuana exposure. Supportive care, CBD. What do we know about CBD? We haven't talked about that at all so far. So although there is some conflicting studies on the effect of a pure CBD product, so this means an isolate of CBD where there are no other compounds or cannabinoids in it. There is some research that supports the use of CBD isolate to help lessen the effects of intoxication. And this is because the CBD attaches to the side of the receptor and sort of, in a way, forces the THC out of the CB1 receptor, thereby lessening the effects on the cerebellum, which, as I mentioned earlier, is responsible for balance. Supportive care, so other things that you can do. Along with the CBD isolate, you should also put your dog in a quiet space away from other dogs and children playing. Also avoid quick movements since your dog feels his whole world is spinning around, and keeping movements lowered can help your dog settle down. Over the next few hours to 24 hours, the effects should gradually wear off. It's also important, if your dog does not want to eat, not to worry. By morning they should be feeling much better and most probably will eat. Are you interested in learning more? Well, Join me on my live Zoom webinar, CBD for Pets. The date is Saturday, January the 13th, 2024, 3:30 to 5 p.m. We'll be looking more in depth at CBD, THC, factors in deciding on what product is right for your pet, questions and answers, and much, much more in an hour and a half. And the cost to you, $9.99. So to register, go to www.caninewellness.com and look at the Canine Online Rehab tab to see how you can register. Thanks everyone, and don't forget to subscribe and like.